Minnesota. When big boys ain't know us. All fast money, no slow bucks.
So what is going on, everybody? Brandon here, aka Brawadis, and today I'm bringing you guys a brand new video for my NBA channel. Obviously, why else would you guys be here? Today I'm going to be previewing the Sacramento Kings, or should I call them the Sacramento Bigs, Sacramento Big Men, Sacramento Center and Power Forwards, because that seems to be the only players they like to pick up on their roster for whatever reason. So, last year, the Sacramento Kings, they went 33 wins and 49 losses. That was their 10th straight year with more losses than wins. Their 10th straight year below 500, and that's terrible. That's not good, obviously. And I don't get it. The Sacramento Kings, from year in and year out, they seem to have talented players. They seem to have a talented team, at least for the most part, and they just can't seem to grab victories, whether that's coaching, the front office, the higher-ups. I don't know. So last year, 33 wins, 49 losses, obviously missing the playoffs. 10 years of losing seasons. I don't know. So, obviously, their team is... They go as far as DeMarcus Cousins takes them. DeMarcus Cousins is the face of that team and the face of that franchise. He is, in my opinion, the best center in the NBA. One of the best big men in the whole entire NBA. He's a superstar. He's a great, great player. Attitude aside, his attitude is shaky. He's obviously working on that. He's been working on it. But his temper and attitude gets in the way of his play sometimes. But if we're talking talent and just his play, he is the best center in the league, in my opinion. He is one of the best players in the NBA, and he is just a tremendous talent. And the Sacramento Kings are very lucky to have him. Now, let's go with the players they lost this offseason. Obviously, they lost Rajon Rondo, who Kings fans were split on him. Some of them loved him, some of them hated him. But there's no denying that Rondo was a good point guard for that team. He got open looks for his teammates. That's what he does his whole entire career. He's a good defender. Same with Cousins. Rondo's temper kind of gets in the way. But Rajon Rondo was a good player for the Sacramento Kings. So for him to leave to the Chicago Bulls, it kind of hurt the team. But they picked up Ty Lawson. So no, Ty Lawson is not the same Ty Lawson that we were used to in Denver. He has fallen off. I don't want to say completely fallen off the map, but you watch Ty Lawson play, and you compare him to just 2 or 3 years ago, and you're just like, what happened? Just 2 or 3 years ago, this dude was an all-star conversation. He was a really, really good player, and he was mentioned among one of the best point guards in the league. And now you watch him, and you're like, is this dude even good enough to stay in the NBA? So the Kings actually they've been trying to acquire Ty Lawson for a while now. They were actually trying to trade a top 6 pick for him a couple years ago. So for them to pick him up in free agency, I'm sure they're ecstatic about that. Not that he's the same player he was a couple years ago, but nonetheless, the Kings have sort of had this little man crush on him. They've been wanting him on the team. So they lost Rondo, they picked up Ty Lawson. But I don't believe Ty Lawson is going to be their starting point guard. Their starting point guard is going to be Darren Collison, who he is not a bad player. He is extremely, extremely efficient, but he is going to miss the first couple of games because he got in a little domestic violence abuse case, and the NBA decided to suspend him, so he's not going to be there to start the season. And at the same time, although he is a really good player, you kind of wonder how he can keep up with the Steph Currys or Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul of the West. So yes, Darren Collison's a fine player, but losing Rondo kind of hurts. Rondo starting and Darren Collison backing up seems like a better duo than Collison starting and Ty Lawson backing up. But anyways, that's their guard position. Shooting guard spot, they signed Aaron Aflalo, and I really, really like that signing because I feel like Aaron Aflalo has always been an underrated player his whole career. He could obviously shoot the three. He could stretch the floor. He could play some defense. I think he's going to be fine for them because obviously Ben McLemore has not been possibly a face of your franchise, possibly the second best player on a championship team, and he just has not panned out. His name has actually popped up in a ton of trade rumors. So the Kings might even be dealing him. We don't know what's going on with that, but he's for sure not going to be in the starting lineup. And that just sucks as a Kings fan because they spent a high draft pick on him a couple years ago, and obviously that didn't pan out. So now he's going to be the backup shooting guard if even that. They might even slot Malachi Richardson into that backup shooting guard spot, who they just drafted out of Syracuse this past summer. We're going to get more into the Sacramento Kings draft. we're going to get more into the Sacramento Kings draft later. I don't want to spoil it now. Small forward, obviously, Rudy Gay. His name has been popped up trade rumors, Sacramento Kings a lot. And I'd be surprised if he makes it past the trade deadline with that team. Heck, I might even be surprised if he starts the season with that team. He has been shopped around for years, and it seems as if no team has been willing to take him because, man, I remember the days when Rudy Gay was mentioned among one of the best small forwards in the league, and it feels like now his game kind of has been exposed through the years. He kind of has this reputation around the league now where every team he goes to kind of gets worse. He's not the most efficient player, and it seems as if he's been exposed as kind of just like a one-dimensional scorer. I like Rudy Gay, but there's no denying that he simply, every team he's been traded to or every team he's played for, they have not gotten better. So the Sacramento Kings have been trying to trade Rudy Gay with no luck. There have been no takers so far. They signed Matt Barnes, backup small forward. I think Matt Barnes fits that team perfectly. Those are the Sacramento Kings, kind of like temper, hard-headed, banger-style players. And Matt Barnes, obviously, if you don't know who he is exactly that type of player. So I like that signing. I like him off the bench. Now you get into the Sacramento Kings bigs. DeMarcus Cousins, Willie Cauley-Stein, Costa Koufos, Scala BCA, Anthony Tolliver, Georgios Papagiannis. They are loaded and stacked at the bigs. And I don't know why they did this to themselves. Okay? So now that we went over the Sacramento Kings roster, their starting lineup, and their bench, let me just explain. Oh, and first of all, I really like the hire of Dave Yeager as their head coach. In case you didn't know, they had George Karl as head coach, and he just did not get along with DeMarcus Cousins. And when you have a player of DeMarcus Cousins' caliber, I'm not saying he kind of holds the team hostage, but if he wants something, you have to make him happy. You have to kind of respect that type of player when he holds that much talent. So him and George Karl didn't get along. There wasn't too much respect between the two, so they cut George Karl 1 year into his 4-year deal. That's right. They signed him for 4 years, and 1 year later, chopped. He got the cut. So they signed Dave Yeager, and I really like that hire because he was a good head coach in Memphis. Memphis just saw the opportunity to hire a better head coach, so they had to let him go. I don't think they wanted to fire Dave Yeager. He has playoff experience, which is going to be huge for this young Sacramento Kings team. I really like that hire. And although they brought in Aaron Aflalo and Matt Barnes this offseason, I think their head coach, Dave Yeager, was their biggest acquisition of this offseason. So now that we've covered their starting lineup, bench, and their head coach, let me get into their draft day. So the Sacramento Kings, this is not me saying it myself. According to the media, they had one of the worst, or I'm not going to say worst, one of the most confusing draft nights. They had the 8th pick in a draft that most saw where the top 8 were kind of in a class of their own, and then everywhere from 9 to 60 was kind of a lower level. So everybody was trying to get into the top 8. Because the difference between 8 and 9 was supposedly huge. And the Kings had that. They were in the top 8. They had the 8th pick. And they had Marquise Chris, who now you look at it, NBA preseason almost over. Marquise Chris actually leads all rookies in rebounding and scoring. So he's a fine player, power forward. He fell to them. And you get the call on trade day, or on draft day, my mistake. And the Sacramento Kings traded out of that 8 spot. So they traded the pick, actually, to my very own Phoenix Suns. And, as a Suns fan, I'm like, wow, we traded for the 8th pick in a draft that was considered a top 8 draft. So I'm like, damn, I wonder what we had to give up. I was scared we might have had to give up Bledsoe or maybe a lot of picks. I don't know what the hell the Sacramento Kings were doing, but they gave us the 8th pick. Again, let me repeat, in a draft that was highly thought of as the top 8, we're in a whole other level than everybody else in the draft. They gave us the number 8 pick, a.k.a. Marquise Chris, who leads all rookies in scoring and rebounding this preseason. For the 13th pick, the 28th pick, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, a player who, not Bojan Bogdanovic from the Nets, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who the Phoenix Suns drafted 3 years ago. And he is still playing overseas. He has not played a single game in the NBA. He has not played a single game for the Suns. And he refused the chance to come over to play for the Suns or the Kings this season. So he's going to stay another year in Europe. and the Suns got the 8th pick. As a Suns fan, I was fucking ecstatic. I was hyped. And me, along with all the other reporters and all the other national media sites, were kind of like, what the hell did the Sacramento Kings just do? Vlade Divac already has a reputation of not being the best general manager in the league. But after this trade, look, so you traded the 8th pick for 13-28 and a player who has never, ever played a single minute in the NBA and refused the chance to come over to the NBA this year. And Marquise Chris is from Sacramento. They had the chance to draft a hometown kid. And actually, the first trade offer that was reported was Brandon Knight and the 13th pick and the 28th pick. And I was like, okay, that makes more sense. The Sacramento Kings lost Rajon Rondo. They need a point guard. And Brandon Knight, although he has his mistakes, he still averages 20 points a game. He's not a bad player. So I was like, okay, it kind of sucks that the Suns had to trade Brandon Knight for the 8th pick. But it's the 8th overall pick, so we got Marquise Chris. And then it turns out the Phoenix Suns were somehow able to keep Brandon Knight and still make the trade. So, I don't know. In my opinion and everybody else's opinion, the Sacramento Kings got fleeced in that trade. It still makes no sense to me, and I'm sure as heated and pissed that the Kings fans were that they made that trade, I'm sure looking now at how good Marquise Chris has looked, although it's just preseason, I'm sure it makes them even more pissed that they made the trade. And to top it off, because when they made that trade, a lot of people were saying, well, that's because Marquise Chris was there, and they already have a lot of big men. So you figure they traded out of that spot because they were going to draft guards. They were going to draft a shooting guard. They were going to draft a point guard, maybe even a small forward. Because they already have bigs. That made sense. They don't want Marquise Chris because he's a power forward. You get to pick number 13. They pick a big man. They pick Georgios Papagiannis, a big man. Let me just get this straight. They already have DeMarcus Cousins, who has been frustrated with the team. He's a big man. Just last year, they drafted Willie Cauley-Stein, who is a big man. And not only did they waste a draft pick on him, or spend a draft pick, not waste, because he's a fine player, but he was a top 6 pick. He was a really highly rated prospect. He's a big man. Then last year, they signed Kosta Koufos, a big man. And then they trade away from taking the best big man available, Marquise Chris, and draft another big man at number 13. But hold on, it gets better. So then you get to pick number 28. You have Tyler Ulis available, who is a point guard, a really good point guard. They take another big man, Skal Labissiere. They took another big. So, and that's when DeMarcus Cousins tweeted out. He said, Lord, give me strength, right after they made that pick. And everybody knew he was talking about, what the fuck is my team doing? We need help on the wings. We need help on the perimeter at the guard position. And we just drafted 2 big men in the first round after we drafted another big man in the first round last year, after he is already a big man, and after they signed a big man in free agency last year, Kosta Koufos. But hold on, it gets better. Free agency starts. They sign Anthony Tolliver, a power forward, another big man. And I'm just sitting there like, wait. So the Sacramento Kings now have wasted a top 6 pick on a big man, Willie Cauley-Stein. They have the best big man in the league, DeMarcus Cousins, already on the team. They signed one last year, Kosta Koufos. They drafted 2 in the first round, okay? So when they made that trade, people were like, well, yeah, it makes sense. They don't want a big man in Marquise Chris. They're going to take 2 guards. They took not 1 big man, but 2, and then they signed another big man in free agency. They now have 6 big men on the team. When I'm looking at this and I'm just like, what the fuck are the Sacramento Kings doing? And I was like, because I live in California, the Sacramento Kings obviously play in California. I was like, you know what, maybe I just don't understand. I have a lot of friends that are Kings fans. Let me call them and see their reaction. So I called the Kings fans, and I tell you, they were pissed. They were just as confused, if not more confused than I was. And you expect maybe, you'll call the Kings fans and they'll explain, oh no, it's okay, No, I'm telling you, after 10 losing seasons straight, and after DeMarcus Cousins has voiced his frustration with the team, for them to do that on draft night, even Sacramento Kings fans were pissed. I thought I was just overreacting and the media was overreacting, but no. Along with me, along with every single media website, Kings fans themselves were over it. They were pissed. So the Sacramento Kings, no surprise, they actually got one of the worst grades for draft night from almost every single analyst and almost every single expert around the league. And I just don't get it. I don't get why they would do that. But anyways, that's why they are a professional organization and I'm not. And I was expecting them to make a trade with one of their big men, and they ended up not doing that. So they have 6 big men on the roster to start the year. Now let's get into the prediction part of it. Now that we've gone over their offseason. Prediction part. I like the Ty Lawson signing as a backup. He did very, very terrible in Houston. But since he knows the Sacramento Kings have wanted him for a while, like I said earlier, they kind of had this little man crush on him. Maybe that gives him the confidence and motivation to get back to his older days. So I do like that signing. Rajon Rondo leaving them, that's going to hurt a little bit because as bad as his temper was, he's still a really good player. Aaron Aflalo, I really do like that signing for them. They needed an upgrade at the guard position since Ben McLemore has not panned out. Aaron Aflalo, good fit. Matt Barnes, I like that at the backup small forward. He fits that team mentality, the tough gritness of that team. Draft day, I already told you guys, I don't like that at all, and I'm not alone. Even Sacramento Kings fans themselves were pissed off about it. So, and let me just go over really quick, because DeMarcus Cousins' name is always thrown into trade rumors. Obviously, the NBA is unpredictable, so I can't tell you what's going to happen for sure. But in my opinion, Boogie is not going to be traded. Okay? Boogie is not going to be traded. They have fired 2 head coaches because they want to make Boogie happy. You don't trade away that type of talent. You try to go through hell and back to make things work with him before you say, you know what, hey, we have to trade him. And the Sacramento Kings, hold on, let me warn you, they have almost gone through hell and back with him to make things work. He's gone on Twitter multiple times and voiced his frustrations behind the team's back about just how stupid he thinks the team moves have been. But they have not fully gone through hell and back. And I think until that happens, DeMarcus Cousins is a king. He has a team-friendly contract. He still has a couple years left. It makes absolutely no sense for the Sacramento Kings to trade him right now. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, maybe he leaves in free agency. But right now, before the season, at the trade deadline, or anytime throughout this season, I do not believe the Sacramento Kings will trade DeMarcus Cousins. That would just be idiotic, stupid, and not only is he the best big man in the league, in my opinion, he is one of the best players overall in the league. And you just do not trade a player of that caliber unless you absolutely have to. And I know Boogie has voices frustrations with the team. Sometimes it may have looked like he's just given up on the team and he wants out super bad, but he still has a couple years left on his contract, so it is now completely up to him. And until it is completely up to him and he forces the Kings' hands, he is going to be a member of the Sacramento Kings, because as dumb as the Sacramento Kings front office decisions that they've made and they've looked, nobody's dumb enough to give up on DeMarcus Cousins unless you absolutely have to. So there's my opinion on that. A lot of people ask me, do you think Cousins is going to be traded? No, I don't. Maybe in the future, fine, but not this season. I already told you guys I like their new head coach hiring. Last year they won 33, lost 49. They lost Rondo. What they did on draft night made no sense. Darren Collison's out for the first couple of games. I just don't... The big men that they drafted are one of the rawest players in the whole entire draft. 2 of the rawest players in the whole entire draft. I don't see what they did to improve too much. And especially with, you don't know what's going on with Rudy Gay, it's always tough to play with that much trade rumors over your head. And especially if they trade him, you don't know what they're going to get in return. Whether they're going to go higher draft picks, whether they're going to go young prospects, or whether they're going to try to trade him for a proven commodity. We don't know. I'm honestly thinking the Sacramento Kings are going to be right there again with 33 wins and 49 losses. Give or take maybe 1 or 2 games better or 1 or 2 games worse. I'm going to put them at between 30, 31 wins to 34, 35 wins, right around there. Playoffs, I don't think are going to happen this year. There's no way they beat out Golden State, San Antonio, the Clippers, the Thunder, Utah, Houston, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, among others. I just don't think the Sacramento Kings... I guess you could say they're going into the right direction. I don't believe Vlade Divac is a good GM, but I do like some of the signings they made. I just don't think it's enough to be a playoff team in the West, and I don't see a player that they signed that's really going to make a 10-game improvement or an 8-game improvement. I just don't see it. Sacramento Kings fans, as depressed as you are, because I talk to a lot of them. Like I said, I live in California. I have a lot of Kings friends. As bad as it is, and as depressing and confused you guys are, just remember, having a player of DeMarcus Cousins' caliber always helps. You guys have one of the best players in the league. Hopefully you guys can get him some help. Get that man some help. Stop wasting his career. Get him a sidekick. Get him a second best player. Get him another scorer. Just do something to keep him happy because you don't want to lose him. Sacramento Kings fans, they love DeMarcus Cousins, and it would be a sad day in Sacramento if he has to leave. So get that man some help. Make a trade. Make a big free agent signing next year. Draft somebody. So I don't know. There's my Sacramento Kings season preview prediction, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.